Welcome to Tuesday, April 15th, work session of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners.
At this time, I will call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Barb McCoy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us all bow our heads, please. Our Father, we come before you this morning just thanking you for another day and thanking you for allowing us the privilege to come to assemble here in this building to discuss the business of the county and to vote on issues that affect our county as well as our citizens. Lord, I ask you to guide our minds, guide our hearts, and guide us in the way that we can make the best decisions for our county as well as for the citizens of this county. This is my prayer. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, before I get started, I'd like to add an item for discussion. Line item, I'll change line item 17. We'll move closed session to 18 and adjourn will be 19 now. Adding an item for discussion about Harnett Regional Water. Good. All right, first up, we have a presentation of Telecommunicators Week. Mr. Jaggers, if you would do the honors, sir.
This is a proclamation for Telecommunications Week. Telecommunications Week proclamation. Whereas this week is time to show our appreciation and to recognize that our health, safety, and well-being are often dependent on the commitment and steadfast devotion of public safety telecommunications. Because emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, emergency medical service, or other critical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of law enforcement, firefighters, and medical personnel is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Harnett County 911 Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact that our citizens have with emergency services. These dedicated men and women are the first responders and are more than anonymous voices on the telephone line. They are trained professionals who provide life-saving instructions over the phone, and whereas emergency responders rely on their knowledge and professionalism to make critical decisions, obtain information, and quickly dispatch needed assistance. Public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency services agencies by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators at the Harnett County 911 Center have assisted with the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and provided life-saving instructions, ultimately giving someone a second chance at life. The work of these unseen heroes is invaluable in emergency situations, and each of these dedicated men and women deserve our heartfelt appreciation. Citizens place their trust in these individuals, not just this week, but every day of the year. And whereas each telecommunicator exhibits compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job, assisting those in need. Now, therefore, in recognition of the men and women of Harnett County 911 Center, whose diligence and professionalism keep the responders, citizens, and visitors of Harnett County safe, we hereby proclaim the week of April 13th to April 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. Harnett County Board of Commissioners, Matt Nichols, Chairman, William Morris, Vice Chair, Brooks Matthews, Barbara McCoy, and Andy Jones. Thank y'all again, being in law enforcement and fire and EMS, y'all looked at me a lot of times in 30 years when I was there. So I really appreciate all that you've done. You keep us when you're out there on a hot situation and you call in and y'all have that calm voice and just give you more confidence that you're doing what you do. Thank you again. I can stand behind y'all. How about that? Y'all get it.
Do you guys want to? Sure. Maybe.
Thank y'all again.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Economic Development Quarterly Update. Mr. Barrington, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. What you'll see on the first page are really three different statistics, and what this will show is and really starting at the bottom of that page all the way back up to the top, the process is working. The more buildings and market-ready sites that we have, the more ability that we have to submit for projects, which this past quarter was over 37%. A year ago, we were submitting for 1 in 5. Today is submitting for 1 in 3. So we feel good with that. The number of projects we have and working on, which is at the very top, is 35 or 25 at this moment. And these are solid projects. You will see an outlier within that itself. On page 2, really wanted to highlight a couple of different things for you in terms of product development activities. We continue to look at different industrial sites, and that's an area that we will continue to focus on is looking for those opportunities for the good quality jobs that they produce. You'll also know that we work closely with Retail Strategies as the county, and there are several developers within the county retail who are looking very seriously at multiple areas across the county, and we feel like this is a coup to the community. The products are top tier grocery chains and tenants as such. There are other national brands that are looking at this market as well, and we feel like, frankly, Harnett County is a hot spot and will be for many years to come for that type of product. Going over to the site readiness, we are working with the town of Lillington to really extend the Brightwater Drive extension all the way to Highway 210. We feel like that will be an important transportation artery to and from the hospital and really open up that phase 2 of that business park itself, allowing us to do some other things within that area. If you go down just slightly in the slide, you will see from a site development standpoint that we're continuously working on the clearing and grading of Edgerton Industrial Park, just trying to get it as close as we can to pad ready. It will not be pad ready, but we're trying to get it closer to pad ready, and that's via a grant via the Golden Leaf Foundation. Salmon has decided to expand their first building from 162 to 175,000 square feet. We feel like that's a really good thing, and will offer other opportunities as well. On page 3, really don't want to highlight really some of our engagement, except that we are actively engaged in different activities. But if you go down towards the bottom of that page, do you want to highlight a couple of the hot topics? Power continues to be a major area of concern. It's one of those areas that and for the reasons why we do not submit for some projects, just because the power is not there and or will not be there at the time in which the company is ready. So that's an area that we're working with Duke Energy and having conversations with. I-685. Melissa, did I give you the, I don't know if I gave you the slide. Perfect. Thank you. As much as anything, wanted you to see, if you've not seen the I-685, alternative options that the state's considering at this moment. Right now, it does appear as though Highway 87 is the preferred, without them stating that it's the preferred, because it's a 4-lane road already. Cumberland County is aggressively advocating for this to go through that road as well. And it hits Fort Bragg. So there's a lot of pluses with it going that direction and not coming up with the first alternative, which is not a done deal. but this is where they are. They are showing that the projected cost is about $1 billion less. Another area of a hot topic just wanted to highlight to you is, and I won't go through all of these, but in a subsequent meeting we'll talk through all of these at some point. But another one that do want to make you aware of is we do not have small product. So we do not have product buildings that are 10 to 30,000 square feet that are market ready for industrial use. And so when we get projects even at that smaller size, we're constrained to even submit anything at this moment. So that's an area that's on our radar, and we know we need to bring that sort of product to the market. We're talking to different investors about doing that. I won't hit the rest unless you have questions related to the rest, but there will be hot topics that we'll bring up in future meetings.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Barron?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What do we do about not having any small products, buildings, and all of that?
That's actually a great question, and again, that's an area in which we're routinely having meetings with investors and developers of that type of product, and the more they get to know, and we're also trying to develop as part of that greenfield sites that would be more ideal for that type of product as well. We do feel like, unlike the Dunn area where it can serve the larger product, it can also serve smaller product. The smaller product can actually be served in every single municipality and across the countywide. We think there's a demand and need for that. It's an area that's on our radar, and not only on our radar, where we're having conversations towards that. No answers at this moment, except we do know that is an issue that has caused us not to submit for many projects. And I don't mean a few projects, many projects. And we know that if we can have that type of product, we could be more competitive, or at least get in the game. And that could be a nice flex industrial. It could be just a single family, or not a single family, I'm so sorry, just a detached building by itself.
I understand what you're saying, but we gotta move in that direction simply because we are losing all of our farmland. And people may not believe this, but sooner or later things creep upon you. And then we're gonna have to worry about where we get our food supply. So there are many issues here for this county to start working on and considering. Thank you so much, and I enjoyed your report.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And you know, if you want, I tell you.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job. Thank you.
If I can say one more on that question as well, we did take this concern to the state legislators and just say that this is a product that we do not have, and this is the kind of money that we would need for us to be able to produce this type of product. We have no confidence whatsoever with everything going on in the state that they will be able to provide such funds, but we did let them know that this is an issue, it is a concern, and we'll continue to champion that with that group as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With the proposed 685 corridor that's coming down, I guess the WIP is starting to look like a good place for us to put some of those small pad spots.
It's very interesting you said that, because we still have a developer from out of state who's very interested in putting that type of product there. Not only that, we're kind of on the wait and see with CCCC, who there may be another opportunity to even build closer to where they are on the site and campus as well, which would allow us to do some things there that frankly we've not been able to before. That is absolutely on mine, given where the projection is going. From the comments, they will not say, it's pretty much solidified between 85 and Sanford. They are not given any indications as to official related to which alternative, but behind the scenes there's a strong thought that the 87 will be the answer. Given that, that's where it looks like a different opportunity all of a sudden, to your point, as well as Highway 87 over at Lexington Plantation, which we plan to do some work in that in the next year in terms of understanding road patterns, etc. But we do agree with you on that.
Thank you, sir.
I got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's Ventex. I know they have decided to back off a little from building this car automobiles plant they have up there in it's in Lee County, well outside of Lee County, between Lee County and Wake County. I wonder, is there any interest in us pursuing the investment and the money that we put into that site, the mega site? Because Hunter County invested a lot of money in that mega site. And I have not heard anything about what's going on with that any at all. And the proposed reason why we invested that money is because with such a huge plant coming there, and Ventex is going to be a huge one, then we was thinking that some of those jobs, small plants, will be forward here to Hunter County. I mean, we met many times. And like I said, if you look it up, we invested a lot of money into that project in hoping to get some jobs for Hunter County. Now that they've backed off from it, I'm just wondering if there's any interest in pursuing the plan as it was set up for.
So you are 100% right that it's been quiet. There's not been much conversation related to, once the investment's been done, and that precedes me, but once the investment's been done, it's been a quiet topic. We've not spent much energy. I say much energy. We've not spent energy on that topic itself, with the exception of, this happened. And so it was just over the last probably 6 months. It could have been longer than that, and I may not have processed it the first time, but over the last 6 months, realized, yes, we did invest in that sort of thing, but no action has taken place at this moment. I will say, if that's the direction I'm thinking we're going, there, and I may be incorrect with this, but there may be an opportunity for some as water sewer gets there. That's where we follow infrastructure. A lot of where we focus our efforts, we follow a lot of infrastructure, and it may be there at this moment. We just haven't invested time to really understand that more. So we need to do that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, please look into that, because
Thank you.
that is very important to Hunter County. And as I said in the very beginning, we invested a lot of money in that site. And I'm hoping that once things get moving there, we will be one of the recipients of the fruit from that site. But that was the reason we did it.
Yeah.
We invest citizens taxpaying dollars for nothing. And for us to
No, you're
just
exactly right.
Walk away from it and forget about it. So
What's
I know you won't hear. But that's something worth looking into.
We'll look into that. Thank you. And we'll come back with some sort of update in terms of
What's going on there?
what's going on, if anything.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Finance Quarterly Update, Ms. Kimberly Honeycutt. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I typically come to you each quarter. That sounds loud to me. I typically come to you each quarter and talk about the current financial status of the county, kind of where the departments are, where our revenues are trending, that kind of thing. But I'd like to do something just slightly different this morning, if I may. I put, just prior to the meeting, I placed at your seats a very large piece of paper, and then I also have two reports that were issued by Moody's and Standard & Poor's. So the reason I wanted to do this is we have not actually gone out and issued debt in quite a while. We did some bonds, and we have issued those periodically over the last several years. But what I wanted to do now is kind of bring everything back around to the very end and tie it all together for you. So I know we had mentioned that we went out and issued debt to build the Flatwoods Middle School, and Brent, County Manager Coley, Allen, and myself went to New York to meet with S&P and Moody's, who issues the county's rating. They looked at everything from our historical profile as far as our planning, inspections, our housing permits, our economy, our debt load, basically just an in-depth detail of the annual information that is provided to you during your budget each year. And so while we did not get a ratings increase, they did increase some of their weighted averages or their weighted assignments to several areas, and those are for economy, management, debt load, fund balance, and those types of things. So while we did get increases in certain areas, it was not enough to give us an overall increase in our rating. But that was good, not what we had hoped for, because we had just gotten an increase in our ratings 2 years ago, so it's still a little new. But I did put in front of you the reports from S&P and Moody's, and I just wanted to kind of point out a couple things that they talked about, and that's going to segue into my next part of my presentation. They talked about the strong management that the board has with your policies, your procedures, and then with the setup of the manager, our budget cycle, how we do our budget process. We went into detail, and I think we told them everything. Yet we even included the kitchen sink, it felt like, because they wanted to know every single process from the moment Lisa sends out that first memo to the departments to say, okay, budget is coming up, start doing this. They like the way we do our CIP in the fall. So when we get to our budget, we focus on our operating, because we already have the long-term plans made and decided upon, and that we build our budget around that. That shows proactive management. That shows proactive planning on the board's part. They also really liked our CIP, how we take it out and project out. So we're constantly monitoring those finances and those reserve needs. They also like the fact that we are also having more detailed conversations with school staff, so that we know, what their current capital maintenance needs are, what the long-term needs are for construction, those kinds of things. So I will not go into detail, but both reports are very, very well written. They're short, but it packs a lot of power to it. But just a few of the things that I wanted to talk about was to kind of follow on Stephen's presentation, talking about the economic growth and things. One of the areas that both rating agencies mentioned that could contribute to an increase in our credit rating is our economy. They spoke positive about the efforts of Harney County, what the board, and what economic development is doing to market properties, to bring vendors or industry in, trying to do that balance between rooftops and economies, and to also get the citizens' salaries up. But they also looked at. We talked in length about salmon. That was one of our presentations. We talked about the money that the board has invested. So all of that is positive. It's people are starting to notice. So I feel like, from my perspective, that we've started on a very, very good foundation and moving the county forward and getting that rating up. So now, over the last several weeks, we have asked you to approve resolutions, installment financing documents, to give staff the authority to negotiate these contracts and to enter into this. And so on April the 2nd, we actually sold our bonds, went out into the market. We actually went out a day early because, monitoring the market and the things that are going on currently, our underwriter felt that it was best for us to go out a little early. So we had to push our LGC we were on their agenda for that day. So we had to push that up a little early, but it actually turned out to be quite well. I think within about 45 minutes, we had sold all of the county's bonds. Matter of fact, we oversold them, I think about 158%. I've read so many numbers. I don't want to misquote, but it was like about 150%. And that just goes back to the oversight, because North Carolina, when we go into the debt market to issue debt, our debt is highly sought after, and that's why you see that, people, they had 150% orders for just what bonds we had. So, some people we had to were turned away, but within 45 minutes, that's excellent. So for the project, just to give you an idea, we actually issued bonds in a par amount of $80,565,000. The premium that we received was $5,752,524 to give us our construction budget of $86,317,524. And when all of that is dropped into a formula and brought back out, our true interest cost to the county was 3.96%. So I think borrowing $80 million at 3.9, I'll take it. Well, I couldn't pay it back personally, but I'll take it. But for 20 years, that's excellent. So that segues into my next thing that I wanted to show you, just to let you know now we've come full circle. I'm going to be talking from this page. So this is a page that you see every time we do a debt affordability update analysis. It gives you the current debt, proposed debt, projected revenues, and then where we think our cash balance is going to fall out. So what I wanted to do is the section on the left that is in green, those are the planning numbers that we use to say when we present it to you, okay, this is what we think we need, this is what we're anticipating our interest rate to be, and this is going to be the impact on the reserves that we have set aside in the school debt fund. When you compare that with what we finally closed in at the 3.96, what we are actually paying for is in the blue. And so what I just want to kind of point out is that over a 20-year period, because when we issue this debt, we issue it for 20 years. So our first payment on this school is going to be $7.782 million. And then you can see under committed general fund balance what that's going to do, how that kind of falls out. But what I want to show you is at the very bottom, that interest rate savings from what we planned on what we actually issued, we have a planning savings of $9.5 million. And that's excellent, because that's money that we can put back into constructing schools. So I just kind of wanted to point that out to you. It's a lot of information on that page, but I just wanted to show you when we set aside that debt, these funds that we have right now are set aside in a separate fund, and they are committed for the schools. So when we come to you with a project and we tell you, yes, we can afford it, the money's already there. So that's kind of how I'm. Any questions? I know that was riveting, so.
Thank you very much.
And just, everyone said something about my red suit today. I wore red when we went to New York. Had on black one day and had on red the next day, and I just thought, well, it worked out so well, I'll just, come up here. So maybe if you don't understand what I'm saying, you'll go, wow, that's a nice suit. So anyway, it just kind of makes me feel good. But I just want to say that the county is moving forward in a positive direction. The report from S&P and Moody's is really a guideline for us to know where we're headed to. That's how we measure our policies. And I will say that one of the memos that was issued, they actually gave us a AAA on our fund balance, which, okay, it was on paper. It didn't have anything to do, nothing came out of it. But I think from mine and Alan's standpoint, over this 10-year period, being able to say, okay, someone recognized that we are AAA, status. That was nice. That's I'm good. I can check that box off. But we continue to work and try to capture this money and set it aside. So now I'm going to get to the fun stuff. As usual, you have in front of you the quarterly report that's prepared. these are actually prepared each month and put online for anyone to view. But each quarter I come to you and just give you some brief highlights. So just in short, revenues that were reported for the general fund through March the 31st totaled $129 million, which is an increase from the same period of last year of $128 million. Slight increase, but it's still an increase. The collection rate for ad valorem taxes, what we budget by and look at right now is our fiscal year end in 2024, the tax collection rate was at 99.38. And that, again, that is calculated each year as part of our audit. And then I also wanted to point out that the sales tax collection, I know we've been hearing a lot about sales taxes going down, sales taxes this, but it's kind of different depending on what region you're in. So on page 32 of this report is a much more detailed report, but for right now, through the same period of December, our sales tax is up a little bit, and it represents a 3.67% increase over last year at the same time. And so what we have noticed is that each month our percentage difference from the prior year is varying significantly. So it's, at the end of the year is when we take our true number, but still, sales tax is kind of remaining fairly constant for us. And keep in mind that a portion of that sales tax is set aside restricted for the schools. So that's good news for the schools, because that again goes back to our debt funding. So overall, I just want to say that the general fund is stable. There are several, when you look at the general fund, the expenditures have increased quite a bit, but that was some timing on some different transfer payments that something we do every year. It's just the time of the year that it was done. But you can see where the county is investing in salaries to attract and maintain employees who serve our citizens. We're keeping that up. We're expanding programs, and we are doing what I would call, smart growth. So, again, when you read these, please, if you have a question, please let me know. I can dig further in detail and get you any additional information on any of these departments that you need. But, I've tried to just hit the highlights in what I've covered. And so I won't spend a lot of time on Harnett Regional, but revenues for Harnett Regional for this quarter was $37 million compared to $49 million of last time. And I really want to point that out. That is not a reduction. What that was attributed to was a year-end entry that we had opened our books back up to redo an entry, and it was a timing. When we pulled those reports, it captured that. So that number was there for about a day, and then it went away because of a classifying entry that we have to do in our audit. It has absolutely nothing to do with, revenue or expenditures. But I just wanted to point that out. But the majority of the revenues from Harnett Regional are from user fees. And then their user fees continues to remain high or remain strong, and operating expenditures are higher than the prior year, but remain appropriate for the growth. So they are experiencing, increases in chemicals. They too have a large workforce, so their salary numbers will be a little bit higher than compared to some other departments. But again, trying to attract and maintain that talent is vital, I think, for everyone in North Carolina. And then I also want to point out too, when we're looking at their revenues, that S&P and Moody's did significantly talk about factors that could increase our rating or decrease our rating the next time they review us. And because we have a very strong water and sewer department, that is a strong reflection on us, because they realize that is tied to our economy, that is tied to our growth, and so that is one foundation that continues to help the county when it goes to get its rating. So just kind of keep that in mind. Solid waste revenues for the current year were $8.2 million, which is a slight decrease from the prior year of $8.8. But overall stated, they're very solid and continue to grow. They did have higher expenditures, but I do know that they are having increased cost and some equipment repairs. So I know Chad has been trying to replace that equipment, and there's a certain time when you get the hours out of it where it's gaining money or it's helping you gain revenue and not instead of being a costly asset that you have. So I know he's been trying to replace his equipment. But all in all, cash balances for the general fund, for Harnett Regional, and for solid waste has remained strong. And so that's where I'll stop it. Yay. So,
Thank you very much.
do you have any questions? That was a lot of information.
It was good information.
So, but
I
anyway,
have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Sorry, go ahead.
What is the fund balance over there at the Harnett Regional?
Let's see. Oh, what? 97. Yeah, about 9.37. 93. So if you would like, I can do a little bit more of a detailed analysis because Harnett Regional has retained earnings. So there's a lot of different items that goes into that. If you'd like to, I can add a more detailed discussion of that and come back with you on that.
That would be good.
Okay, I can do that.
One thing you brought up is salaries increasing with time. One thing, and this is a little bit off point, but it's a good time to bring it up. What I'd like to see is you and the department heads and her go into a huddle, and I'm tired of training employees for our surrounding communities. Let's find out whether it's a workplace or salaries or whatever, what do we gotta do to retain our good people? Because this has been going on since I started here in '87. We get somebody new, train them up, next thing you know, they're gone off somewhere else. And I don't know how to fix it.
Well, we have done that. I mean, we've done that a couple of years ago. To do the report on, at least 4 years ago, trying to see where we stand as far as salaries in this county. And I gotta say, we've come a long ways.
Oh, sure.
But we still got some movement to make in that area. Simply because we're still, I feel like, I don't know, I haven't seen the report lately. I still feel like we might fall a little short from the surrounding counties. But we come a long ways from what it was when I set my foot up here in 2014. Some of the employees, it was pitiful. I know some particular department was making $28,000 a year. Nobody didn't want to hear the cry. You can't keep employees if you don't pay employees.
That's a lot of money, because I started out in '87 at $11,900 a year.
That was 87. That was 87.
It is what it is. There were deputies that were on welfare. But the moral of the story is this is an evolving issue we've got to address all the time.
Right.
And
we did the compensation study 2 years ago.
Right.
And we have money in the budget to do another compensation study in the coming fiscal year. We will look at some of the salary increases. We've also, the County Commissioners Association just completed a review of expected COLAs for the surrounding counties and did a big survey. So we're taking that into consideration as we do our proposal for the budget in order to try and keep up with our peers. The other thing that I think we really want to stress that we're doing is doing a better job of hiring individuals with experience and education and giving them a higher starting salary. So we're making sure that they're paid at the location and they're now interested in coming to our county to work. And we're seeing that that is helping a lot with both recruiting and retention. And also, the board gave me the approval to be able to give retention increases to individuals that we maybe are potentially going to use due to recruitment efforts by another county. If we know that, we can make an additional offer in order to keep them. So some of those things are paying off for us. We've not lost a lot of employees to other counties lately, unless the spouse, they move and need to move because the spouse gets a position in another place. We're seeing that occasionally still.
But the big thing is emergency services, obviously, everybody knows across the board.
Right.
We're struggling and we make great strides.
Yes. And our paramedic academy and some of the things that we've done there, we actually at one point recently I think we're practically full with all of our paramedics. Now that I know we've lost a couple recently, but we're doing pretty good compared to where we were a couple years ago because of both the Paramedic Academy and giving a higher starting salary for some of these individuals.
Well, I know that being in the trade field and coming from the school board, and we did the financial studies for the trades, and the county the county employees are in the same thing on the trade side. We're way below market value. I mean, it's not even close to market value. And we did these studies, but we were not. Well, I know when I was on the school board, we did the study and it didn't get funded. And I don't know about the county employees, but the study how much it was funded there. And I have no problem with studies, but it does us no good to do these studies and find out what is needed, and then we don't try to meet it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean, so the trades I know are way under market value.
When we completed the compensation study called for a 10% increase for law enforcement and an additional, and then an 8% across the board for all employees based on where our employees were. And the board approved those increases within the budget. So that meant that the law enforcement personnel received and emergency services both received 18% increases in their salary and the COLA on top of that. So we have been taking those steps that the study recommended, at least in the last study.
We need to
So
look
I
at,
appreciate that.
we need to look at our other departments too. I think Mr. Burns has got one now that's been here a while, is fixing to leave. Mr. Bean, don't you have, lost one recently that's been with us a while? And any of that we can head off. Because pension dollars go further than training dollars.
Yes, that's very true.
So but that's just food for thought.
Well, I appreciate your sentiments on that because that helps as I make decisions on things that we're looking at with employees and increases that might be necessary if they're considering other positions. We want to retain them, and it's good to have your support in that area.
Well, one thing I would like to see, if possible, this budget is we don't need to have like the maintenance staff at the school system leaving there to come to work for the county. And the county, we need to get those positions pretty equal so that you're not losing one to the other.
Sure.
That's Sonic County. That's Sonic County. Another thing we need, and I'm glad that our manager, economic development, not economic development, human resource manager see the need in our work last year when we was getting the budget for there and redoing our rules and regulations of workers in this county. There's been too much nepotism in this county. Too much nepotism. And it doesn't help us for us to keep hiring family members in positions. You don't create a fair workforce like that. So I'm glad to see that there has been something drawn to addressing this problem. And it's nowhere as bad as it used to be.
Right. Well,
So things are moving in the right direction.
the board
But
approved
you need to
it.
think about that. That
Right.
makes people not want to work for this county. When you're constantly hiring family members to work, or giving these jobs to family members, there should be a rule and a regulation.
Right, there is. And the board did approve a change in the nepotism policy.
I'm
When they
glad.
approve.
I'm giving
And,
praise to that.
and so that limits the ability to hire staff that are related to other members of staff. So
And
that's been addressed.
that's under the supervision though, correct? I mean,
Yes,
I mean-
right.
I mean, you think here in the county,
Yeah, they have to be in
you
separate
got a
departments.
family member that's, working, a father that's working in the position, and it's like, well, what other jobs are around here? I've seen my family work for the county for 30 years now.
Right.
And why wouldn't the son go and try to do the same thing?
Understood.
Or
There's
follow-
nothing wrong with
or-
that
or
if you
follow in
do
the
it,
footsteps.
if you do it right. But there's a lot of employees out here that needs the same opportunity. And it is not built in most companies or counties that for you to just continue to hire family members. That is a policy I'm glad that was changed. So, and credibility. It affects us up here as county commissioners. It affects our credibility too. I think we're going in the right direction, I got to say, because I have seen it so much worse here. But I have to speak out on what I think is right and what I think is wrong. So, that's just it. That's just the way it is. And most of the time, I'm right. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
And any other,
And another thing, when we hiring all these people and stuff, especially in big positions, heading up agencies and stuff, we need to know what these people are being paid. It needs to come to us, even though you are the manager, but we are the commissioners here. And we need to know what's coming down the pipe, because it affects our budget too, the whole county.
Commissioner Matthews, do you have any idea from the last study that we did on the maintenance? How close did we come to? We didn't come close at all at that time.
Well, I do believe we funded about half of what was recommended with some of our allocations that came from this board.
And that's funded by local funds, right?
Right.
So, and essentially they're county employees also.
And part of the budget request this time will include being able to fill the remainder of that.
Well, I'd like this board to really consider doing that so we don't have the transfer from one to the other anymore. If you've got a good employee, you want to keep them, and we don't want them transferring in just to go from one maintenance to the other maintenance.
Right.
One of the things that Mr. Jaggers and Commissioner Jaggers is probably referring to is when we were on the Board of Education, we had a young man that worked as a grass mower. Did a good job. You'd send him off, say, go do these 3 schools, and you wouldn't see him until he come back to the right. Now he's working for Harnett Regional Water, mowing grass around the lift stations, making $3,000 more a year, or at least when he left it. And we need these jobs to where they're balanced. We don't want to compete with our own agencies and run the price up.
Makes sense.
That's the one that comes to mind, because that was when I was on the board.
any other questions, comments from Ms. Honeycutt?
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate all the hard work you and your team are doing, so thank you very much.
I just want to thank everyone for what they do, especially Brent and all the other managers. But just, I've been here for 29 years and I've seen a lot. I know our ordinance, typically, if I can just, if you'll indulge me, please don't put a clock up on me. But if you'll indulge me for just a second though, but from what I have seen, when you first started with the county, I remember retention being talked about. And that was when the board implemented that 3-5 plan. So when someone came in, they went to, and at their 3-year mark, they went halfway between starting salary and a defined amount. And at their 5 years, they went to the job rate, which was not always midpoint. And that's where you stayed. Unless you got COLAs, that's all you ever received. Right. And so when we started working to take that away, we implemented the performance increase plans so we can start, awarding employees appropriately. We started putting in COLAs. I know Brent has, they've implemented a employee survey to hear what the employees have to say. And since the pandemic, I know we've seen things that we never would have dreamed of. And it seemed to me like, the public safety as far as EMS and the sheriff's department or the law enforcement were on the front lines of everything. And so, you had to pay them a premium to even get them to stay or to compensate them, because I don't know that they ever went home and went to sleep. It seems like they were always managing some crisis somewhere. So as people started coming back to work, we all of a sudden salaries have surged, and it just seems like, if one unit increases a certain group of employees a certain amount, then everyone else follows suit. And it was always kind of like keeping up with the Joneses or the Smiths or whatever you want to call them. And I will say that, you have to attract and maintain your employees, but the way we have been able to do it about when someone comes in, starting them on our pay scale commensurate with their years of experience. That says a lot, and that has, just in my office, and that's what I talk about quite a bit, when anybody will listen, is that we've been able to hire people from outside, people who have walked in, and we have taken them from other units outside Harnett County, so it's not local, so I'm okay with it. But we have been able to attract people that come in that we don't have to stop and train them. We may have to kind of give them an idea of what we're doing in our office or how, what they'll be working on. But these people walk in and they come in with their coat and their lunch and they sit down and they're ready to go. But they come at it with a different perspective, which has allowed us to think outside of Harnett County, to think outside of North Carolina. And so, keeping up with the salaries, that's great, but it's also everything else. It's our benefits. It's the overall, I think someone referred to it as mental health in our workplace. It's all of it. So, and Brent's done an excellent job of staying in tune with the employees. And so, this is a place you want to be. Well, I do. So, but anyway, but thank you for your time. And like I said, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out.
I just want to say that I observe it all. And I think Harnett County got some excellent benefits. Excellent benefits.
Well, I think so, but I'm a little opinionated. But
No.
I'm opinionated when it comes to the employees.
It's an excellent red seat, though. It is.
Thank you. I'm not a
Discuss a request to accept additional grant funding from Chatham County Partnership for Children. Mr. Matthews, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here this morning just to request permission to receive these additional funds from Chatham County Partnership for Children. This is the funders for our Child Care Resource and Referral Program. Total of funds would be $1,553.02. Chatham County Partnership received additional funds from their funders, and so they're spreading that out between all their grantees. So that's my request.
Consent.
Pleasure of the board.
Consent.
We'll add this to the consent agenda next week for approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Discuss a request to approve amendment to the current contract with Gregory Poole. Mr. Chad Bean, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Here to request an amendment to a current contract that we have with Gregory Poole. They maintain and repair all of our heavy equipment at both landfills. We are requesting a $150,000 increase to that. We hope, of course, we won't need that with a month and a half out, but as they say, hoping is not a plan, so we want to make sure we have enough money allocated for that. We do have it in our budget to do that as well. Any questions?
The original value was $150,000 and it's increasing to $475,000?
No, sir. The original value was $275,000. So we're increasing it $150,000, which means the total would be $425,000 set aside for repairs. We did have one large expenditure this year. I know Kimberly touched on it briefly. As far as we had a motor replaced in one of our dozers. We have taken steps to replace a lot of our equipment. We're looking really good, but we did a cost analysis on this one dozer to see whether it would be feasible to just replace the motor to have a backup, and that's what we did. So,
And you got the funding and everything, you're golden.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Consent.
We'll go ahead and add this in consent agenda for next week as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Discuss a request to accept stream flow rehabilitation assistance program funds from the Department of Agriculture. Ms. Lynn Lambert, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. This morning I'm here to request permission to accept stream flow rehabilitation assistance program funds from the North Carolina Department of Agriculture in the amount of $116,000 and $327. This is round 2 of the STRAP program, and these funds will be used to remove vegetative debris from 2 different sections of Buish Creek, beginning at 421 and going to the Cape Fear River. So working on getting the vegetative debris removed from those stream outlets to give water a sort of free and clear flow to get to the river in the event of a large rainstorm. Buish Creek was originally on the list of streams that we had when this program first came about 2 years ago. And so what we're doing is, as these funds become available, we're working through that initial list that we had of locations that needed debris removal. There is no match for this particular grant.
Questions, comments? This to the consent agenda as well for approval. And you're up again. While I actually have you here talking about stream flow, every time I cross over the bridge right here at the Cape Fear, there are more and more logs that keep piling up on that one pylon.
Right.
Who's going to do anything about that?
Yeah, that's actually going to fall under NCDOT.
Okay. All right.
And the Corps of Engineers as well.
Can we do something? Can somebody talk to them about handling that, please?
Also, the Corps of Engineers.
Say good luck.
Right, and you're up again to discuss a request for permission to apply for supplemental funding for NCDA.
And so, yes, we would like to also request permission to apply for supplemental funding again from the North Carolina Agriculture Department. This time from the Agricultural Development and Farmland Preservation Trust Fund for supplemental funds that will enhance our cotton conservation easement project. In round 16, we were able to secure $500,000 for this project. At that time, that was the max amount that we could apply for because one of the policies capped the allocation at $500,000. However, with cycle 18, that policy has since been changed, and we can now request additional funding if the initial allocation provided was less than 50% of the development rights value for the conservation easement project. And so we're requesting permission to request $916,000 additional more dollars to go towards securing the conservation easement and development rights of that project. It is 330 acres right along the Cape Fear River. It's almost adjacent across the river from Raven Rock State Park. And so in doing so, we are helping provide a protection for water quality in the area of our county that's labeled as a high-quality watershed.
Is there any match for this one?
There is a match, however, the match will be covered with a significant landowner donation towards that project and also staff time working on the administration of the project.
Questions or comments from Ms. Lambert?
Consent.
Go ahead and add this to the consent agenda as well, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Development Services briefing. Sarah Arbor, good morning.
And good morning to the rest of the commissioners. I hope everyone's well this morning. So Development Services does have 2 items that we will brief you on that we will be bringing before you for the April 21st board meeting. The first is a requested rezoning. It is a request to go from the RA20R to commercial. The applicant is Mr. Chan Ho. The property is approximately 1.19 acres, located at 520 Sewell Rosser Road and the Barbecue Township. So this property was formerly used for residential purposes and is now vacant. It does front on both Sewell Rosser Road as well as NC 87 North. Surrounding land uses consist of single-family residences located mainly to the north and to the west, as well as several commercial uses, including the Olivia Post Office, a convenience store, and communication station. In terms of services available for the site, there's public water and sewer available. The annual average daily trips are about 26,500 on NC 87 North and about 150 on Sewell-Rosser Road. Next, we'll take a look at the zoning district compatibility map. Here you can see an adjacent property to the south is zoned commercial, and there are other commercial properties located in the vicinity. Next, we'll take a look at the land use classification compatibility. You can see this the subject property is located within one of our development nodes, Rural Center, which is designed to encourage non-residential uses. So staff has provided several photos of the site for the board to review. The first few are a view from Sewell-Rosser. The next set would be from NC 87. And moving on to staff's evaluation, staff was able to answer everything in the affirmative. We found that the request was compatible with the underlying land use, as well as the surrounding land uses. So staff is recommending approval. At the April 7th Planning Board, the Planning Board did recommend approval unanimously. We did have an adjacent property owner attend the hearing. They stated that they were not speaking in opposition. However, they did have concerns about the intended use of the commercial property if rezoned commercial. So that's it from staff. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions or comments on this rezoning? Go ahead and add that to the agenda for next week for a public hearing. No. No, sir. Sir, you're out of order. We're having a meeting right now. This isn't a public comment period. No, sir. You're free to sit down and observe. Sorry, Ms. Arbor. Please continue.
It's okay. All right, so for our next item this morning, Development Services staff will provide a brief presentation for the upcoming Harnett Horizons 2040 Land Use Plan update, which will be formally presented to you all for your consideration of adoption during the public hearing next week. So this presentation will cover the plan themes, describe how we engage the public and develop the plan, as well as update the board about the past 2 planning board meetings. And with that, we'll get this presentation started. Please feel free to stop me at any time to ask questions. So the updated land use plan consists of the original elements from the current comprehensive land use plan, including land use, economic development, transportation, and natural resources. The updated plan expands on these elements to address housing, the jet port, agricultural land protection, and village districts. So the process of developing this plan was a well-informed one. So throughout the process, we engaged directly with the public through 4 open houses and 2 community events, which were hosted by the county. Additionally, we held numerous meetings with steering committees, stakeholders, and various civic groups. Along the way, staff and our consulting firm did provide numerous updates to the planning board, the commissioners, and the public. Another way that we engaged the public throughout this process was with our project survey. So our project survey was open for about 5 months and received over 1,700 responses, which was a really strong turnout from our community. The survey was promoted on the Harnett County website and social media accounts by Development Services with a lot of help from the Community Relations Director, Desiree Patrick. Additionally, flyer advertisements with a QR code linked directly to the survey were posted in numerous places throughout the county. Paper copies of the survey were made available upon request. Most recently, there was a draft version of the Harnett Horizons 2040 Land Use Plan that was made available to the public for review and comment. The form has been available on the Development Services website since the end of October. The review form allowed for open-ended responses for each section of the land use plan. However, there have been none submitted to Development Services at this time. Now we're going to take a look at the project development schedule and the timeline. So getting to the adoption step has been about a 22-month-long process, which began in July of 2023. This process was broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 was project initiation and analysis. Phase 2 was visioning and plan development. And phase 3, was implementation and adoption. So currently we are at the final step of the last phase, which is adoption. And adoption, of course, starts with a recommendation to adopt the plan from the planning board and then a vote to adopt this by this board. So now we'll discuss the adoption process so far, as well as what happened at the last 2 planning board meetings. So in March, staff and our consultant presented the draft plan to the planning board. The board voted to table the plan until the final recommendations from resource agencies were incorporated into the plan and until additional commercial use areas were added to increase commercial growth opportunity along US Highway 401 North. So following the board meeting, staff arranged to meet with the interested members individually to review the plan and address any remaining recommendations that the planning board may have. Following our one-on-one meetings with the planning board members, the following comments were addressed. So on the future land use map, staff worked with our consultant to expand the employment growth in historic community areas along the Highway 401 North corridor between Kipling and Colibet Springs communities. In the housing section of the plan, we revised the median sold price of a home. We did update that from $304,000 to $320,000, and that was to better reflect the current market conditions since the first version of the draft plan was created. So that was a good update. And then lastly, we added the final resource agency recommendations to the plan. At the April planning board meeting, staff presented the updates to the board, and the board did recommend approval of the plan 4-1. There was no comment provided for the dissenting vote. So what's next? Moving forward, staff as well as our consultant, Stewart Engineering, will be providing a formal final presentation of the land use plan to the board on April 21st. The public hearing will be held, and if the board is comfortable with the land use draft plan, they may consider adoption. Following adoption, Development Services staff will move into the implementation phase of the land use plan update. So we will begin drafting text amendments to update land development regulations. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from Ms. Arbenz?
Just one from me. The legislative action that happened that put into jeopardy our agricultural overlays and airport overlays, have they been resolved yet?
So that has not been resolved at this time. There's several bills I think that have been brought up, but nothing has changed.
So we'll be adopting this plan with those overlays being contingent on what happens in the legislative session.
Correct.
Thank you.
We will at some point have to have that law changed. Our current members have stated that they believe that it will be repealed by the end of the session. Haven't done it yet. So we feel strongly that go ahead and make these recommendations in our land use plan with the expectation that once the legislature does make their decision to repeal, then we'll still be able to move forward. We believe these are the right recommendations, and so we'll continue to have you move forward with approving them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Arbenz? We will go ahead and add this to the agenda next week for a public hearing. Thank you much. Thank you very much. Discuss a request for the board to consider 2 resolutions authorizing grant and loan applications to NCDEQ. Mr. Tommy Burns, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate you entertaining our request. As part of our PFAS project, right now we have a pilot project underway where we're trying out different, processes to filter out PFAS from our water. The next phase of that, once we kind of settle in on the most efficient and the most cost-effective process, is to go into a preliminary design to upgrade our plant. There's funding available through the state revolving fund that we'd like to apply for. There's $5 million available each year that we could apply for. And so that's what the resolutions that you have before you that we're requesting. And sort of ancillary to that, the project costs for this are going to be anywhere from 80 to 120 million. So I think it's prudent for us to also look at other venues for funding. Fayetteville PWC just received a legislative appropriation for 60 million towards PFAS. And we would like to sort of pursue that avenue for funding as well. Again, PFAS is a product that is been introduced into our water that we had nothing to do with, but unfortunately we're the end user that has to treat it and remove it. So it's something that we've got to have in place by 2028 because we've got a 2029 deadline to be filtering that out. Right now there's 2 or 3 different processes that we're evaluating at the water plant. One's, you'll hear these terms, there's an ionic treatment and there's a granular activated carbon treatment. And so we're going to probably between the 2 of those land somewhere. But again, this agenda request is to consider 2 resolutions authorizing us to apply for the state revolving fund for grants and loans to assist with this project. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from Mr. Burns?
I have a question. This is a subject that we have discussed on many occasions. But PFAS, what is the amount of PFAS in our water now? Do you know?
Well, the maximum contaminant level that we've got to treat to is 4 parts per trillion, which to illustrate, we talked about fluoride previously. 4 parts per trillion would be 3 drops in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So that's kind of it's a fairly intensive level that we've got a standard that we've got to meet by 2028.
Mm-hmm. Are you confident that we will get these grants?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that if not, we're going to have to put it, we're going to have to finance it. And it's in our CIP. But our CIP over the next 10 years is about $400 million. So we're trying to pursue any venue we can to keep from having to finance it, which in turn increases our end users, our ratepayers.
Well, I certainly appreciate you pursuing this because we don't want to end up like Cumberland County. They have a problem there. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm sure that they're going to resolve that problem, but we appreciate you.
If you could help us with, the legislative request too, that would be very helpful. It's a major undertaking for us, and we have a number of regional partners that purchase water from us as well. So they're certainly keeping up with how we progress because it could affect them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it could.
Any further questions or comments? Pleasure of the board to add this resolution to the consent agenda for approval next week. We'll go ahead and add this consent agenda next week, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
Discuss a request to approve an assignment and dedication of utility easements for Northwest Water and Sewer. Mr. Rappel, good morning, sir.
All right, good morning. This is just a simple assignment and dedication of utility easements from a subdivision. It's owned by RP Wellens Land and Development. Development's called Eagle Creek. Typical situation is inside the development, they grant easements over to the water and sewer districts without coming before the board. These were all site improvements that had to be done, so they had to get the easement from property owners, install everything, and now they've got to transfer or dedicate those easements and the infrastructure to the water and sewer district. So that's why I'm here before you. Here before you as the board. However, next week We did notice for the Water and Sewer District to meet to vote on this item separately. So this would not, I would not be asking for this to be put on consent. It's already noticed to be on the agenda for the Water and Sewer District for approval. But happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? So we'll add this as a separate line item for next week?
Yeah, so because you'll reconvene as the Water and Sewer District to vote on this. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, too easy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Discuss a request to adopt S7 2024 supplement to the Code of Ordinances. Ms. Capps, good morning.
Good morning. This is your annual update that you do each year for when you adopt your ordinances. I send it over to American Legal and then they update the actual code of ordinances. It includes updates that you've made to your Unified Development Ordinance and this past year, the Personnel Ordinance. Staff just asked that you place this on the next consent agenda to adopt the supplement.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Capps? Will you please put this on the consent agenda for next week?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Southeastern Economic Development Commission vacancy, number 14. Who would like to take that one?
Yes, so we recently had a individual from the private sector that was serving on the SEDC board, the Southeastern Economic Development Commission. Their term expired, and so we need to appoint another individual, and so that's being brought before you. And I believe the chairman has a recommendation as far as an individual to consider for that.
Yes, I do. I had talked with Mr. Roger Farina. I think this would be a good board for him to sit on.
Who's serving on that position now?
Who was serving on that position, sir?
Again?
Who was serving?
Who was serving? Oh, Miss Patsy Carson.
That's
From,
awesome.
yes, from Irwin.
Oh, from Irwin to Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we did ask her, and she said that at this time, she's stepping away from other things, and so declined to seek a reappointment.
Does any other board member have a recommendation or nomination for this position? Is there any objection to Mr. Roger Farina serving in this position?
I don't have an objection, but I thank you for asking. I think that's the proper way to do it. I don't think any of us up here should be appointing people to positions.
So with the pleasure of the board to add Mr. Roger Farina to this position, please make it so. Thank you, ma'am. This time we will review applications to serve on boards and committees. I don't even see my list. Okay. We have received a recommendation from Mid-Carolina for Ronnie Pleasance. He would like to be considered for appointment. He would fill a volunteer position for the Mid-Carolina Aging Advisory Committee. I do not have that packet in front of me for his application.
Got the name. I know Mr. Club.
Is there any objection for Mr. Ronnie Pleasant? Go ahead and add Mr. Ronnie Pleasant for approval. Then Agriculture Advisory Board, we've received an application from Frankie Spivey. Nice. He would like to be reconsidered for reappointment. He serves as the District 5 representative now. I would make a recommendation for Mr. Spivey to be reappointed. Is there any objection? Question? We'll go ahead and add Mr. Spivey for reappointment as well, please. Okay, it brings us to the County Manager's Report. Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. The first item that I want to bring up is that they did make an announcement this week by the North Carolina County Commissioners Association that they have set June 10th and June 11th as the County Advocacy Days. That's our opportunity to go and receive briefings related to General Assembly actions and then pay visit to them. So basically it works as there's a dinner in the evening on the 10th, and then they do the briefings in the morning of the 11th and go over and visit. So if you're interested, please let Melissa know and she can register you for that. know a number of our staff we're already planning to go, so we'd welcome to have the commissioners along as well. I did have a number of, speaking of legislative items, each week there's a notice that's put out by the County Commissioners Association regarding various items that are being introduced at the General Assembly. I laid that on your desk for your reading. Quite active on the General Assembly, lots of bills being submitted. There are a number that I highlighted that are definitely concerning. One, House Bill 219, which would take away the ability of the county to restrict providing ambulance franchises. That's come up in the past with us, and so that change would be against our desire. Also limiting system development fees and some changes that would be there. And there are a few others that are back further. Interbasin transfer moratorium. We've had discussions related to our regional water about being able to work with others that are in a different basin. And so that kind of change would, although it's a study bill, if enacted, would be a concern for us. Also, some changes related to the development application review timeline. That would push us related to our staff and our reviews and ensuring that we would meet that timeline would be a challenge. Other election law changes that are being considered, and so it's quite a number of bills. There also were a couple of bills that aren't in this packet that I will mention. There's a bill that would limit some of our development authority, even with the repeal of 382, other areas that would limit our ability for controlling how development happens. And the last one, House Bill 539. Interesting bill. If it was passed, it would require that when we do a reappraisal, the county commissioners would be required to establish our tax rate at the revenue neutral level. So it would take away your authority to determine what level you want to set your tax rate at through a reappraisal. For example, last time when we had our reappraisal, revenue neutral was 56.1 and we established it at 59.1 due to our needs for further funding for various projects and construction, et cetera. So very much we'll be watching that one, seeing how that goes. So I will plan in the future to provide this information. They send it to us on Fridays. I'll package it and forward it to you all so to be able to tell what's going on, what the county commissioners are watching. Next item I have is the Board of Adjustments last night did approve the setback variance that we requested in order to build a new hangar at the jetport. We've had individuals interested in building a hangar lease and doing a land lease. And so we did get approval of that variance, so now we can move forward with that project. The last item I have is a reminder that county offices will be closed on Friday due to the Good Friday holiday.
Thank you very much. Okay,
I would like to make a statement.
good man.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, Brent, for providing this legislative information. I went to the meeting, the North Carolina County Commissioners Association for District 6. I would like to say that for all of us that's sitting on this board, and you providing this information on legislation that's coming up, we need this information because you don't know what's coming down the pipe that's going to affect you serving your citizens in this county. And we as commissioners have a right to speak out on things with our representatives up there. So I appreciate it. It's not a matter of just sitting up here on this board. You must be informed on what laws are being made in Raleigh. And a lot of these laws can take away your ability to represent your people. And that is a true fact. So I know our commissioners don't really like to get involved in this, but we have a responsibility to our constituents in this county. We also have a responsibility to contact our representatives. There's nothing wrong with contacting them on the behalf of your constituents in this county. So again, Brent, thank you. And I didn't want to give a full report on what I learned in that meeting, but it's amazing, the things that are going on in Raleigh that can really strip you of your ability to represent your constituents in this county. And I'm being very honest about that. Thank you. And Cole, I got to say, I put you on the map. Because they were trying to take our opioid program. I said, oh, we got one of the best ones. And I give it to Cole Price.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, new item number 17 that I put on the agenda. I know I said it was for HRW. I just wanted you to sweat a little bit because it is. But I would like the board to consider the removal of fluoridation from our water treatment process. It's a hot topic right now across the nation. Several other states are banning it. It's been researched, proven that fluoride in the water is actually harmful at certain levels. People get fluoride in many other ways. It's already in the water. So I think that we should take that out of our water treatment process. Start that here as well.
Is that a discussion?
It's on the table for discussion.
I think we need to let our 100 regional people bring back their full report on, and they gave us a report the last time they were here. To make that decision as a board, you're affecting every citizen in this county. So that's something we should take very seriously.
And
It
I
can't
can-
be a personal thing.
It's not a personal thing, ma'am. I don't want to get political about it, but
But it's gonna take getting political about it, because you're here to represent your constituents.
I am, and I'm looking out for their health and safety. And
You're not the one that you're not a physician.
okay. Ma'am, fluoride is a neurotoxin, okay? And it's extremely harmful and detrimental. And for what the ADA says for tooth decay and the benefits, there are far worse than the benefits of getting that. In fact, if you have too much fluoride, it's actually harmful to your teeth and harmful to your body and your bones.
I understand all of that, and I applaud you for bringing it before us. But we have expert people working in that water regional department to bring us information on that, and then we can make the decision. I don't think we as a body sitting here can make changes like that without the input of the Hardin region.
Chair, we briefed it last time for you,
Yeah.
and as I mentioned to you, it is not an essential element of our process. It's a public health additive. It's been in our system since the 50s when the town of Lillington operated the system. It's a hot topic in our industry right now as well. There's some counties that have already removed that process. Ours is a little bit unique because we've got regional partners that if you decided to go that route, obviously we would want to give them some notification as well as to the state. But it's really a public health additive. It doesn't affect our treatment process at all, whether we put it in or not. But it's always been introduced for that reason.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, why don't we recommend that we put it on the agenda for next week, and then he can contact the regional partners, and if they want to be here, they can be here, and you can have a full discussion on it at that point in time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and add a separate line item for discussion. You can
Yeah.
get it
Mr. Burns,
together.
can you let them know?
Obviously Fort Bragg's our largest customer.
If they want to
so-
be here, they can be,
Thank you very much.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay, at this time, do we have a need for closed session?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board go into closed session for the following purposes: consultation with the county's legal staff in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege concerning the handling of a claim. This motion is made pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A3.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We'll go into closed session.